Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Catrice Miller, and today for my Lunchtime LinkedIn Live series, we are focusing on 1L law school students. We're going to talk about how law school students who are just starting out can learn how to survive and thrive their first semester of law school. For those of you who don't know me, I am a career and business coach as well as a labor relations leader currently working with Starbucks Corporation. However, prior to that, I have worked for major corporations, including Microsoft, Amazon, as well as working with the federal government for over 10 years and working at some of the top law firms in Chicago. My career has spanned over 30 years working in the legal industry. But before all that, before all those resume bullet points and all those impressive accolades, I was a law school student just like many of you. And when I was in law school, and I'm going to be very transparent today, there were so many things I feel that I did wrong. And there were things that I wish I had knew before I went into law school. And there was so many lessons I learned along the way. So that's why this live is super important to me, because I want to share my experiences with you in the hopes that perhaps they can give you some knowledge and help you make better choices and stay ahead of the game as you navigate your first semester of law school. So we're going to dive in right now, and we are going to focus on 10. I have 10 actual strategies and tips that you can use to help you survive your first semester of law school. Now, I encourage you to go ahead, grab a pen, some paper, because we're going to go over this list, and this is going to be some really great, useful information for you to take down and use later. Also, this video is being recorded for all the students who could not attend. I received quite a few messages from students saying they had scheduling conflicts, which I totally understand. So we're going to make sure the video is recorded so that you can come back to it later. All right, guys, let's dive in and let's get to this list and let's talk about these winning strategies. Okay, the first one, I actually have a list here. The first one is that you need to adapt your life to law school, not the other way around. This was one of my major mistakes coming into law school. I don't know if it was because I was a single parent, working full time. I really felt I had something to prove. And I really felt like I was going to be the person who didn't let law school affect me. I'm still going to be a super mom. I'm going to be an outstanding worker. I'm going to have it all, do it all. And law school is just going to find its way to get in and fit in my life. Boy, was I wrong. That is not how this works. Honestly, going to law school is really like having a child. You cannot just fit it into your schedule. You really have to adapt your schedule and your lifestyle to starting law school. And that's something I didn't do from day one. Now, I know many of you are well into the semester, so some of this may seem a little bit late if you've already started, obviously. But for those of you who didn't make this change, this will be important to you right now as well. The first part of this adapting involves actually transforming the expectations of your family and your friends. Your family and your friends really do have your best interests at heart, but they do not understand what going to law school is like. They don't understand the rigor, the amount of studying you need to do, the late hours, the long hours. They really don't understand. So you need to help them understand so that they can help you throughout this journey. And by helping you, that includes lowering their expectations of you and making sure they're being supportive along the way. So make sure you are getting your family and friends on board. Now, let's be real. There are going to be some people who still won't get it. And there are going to be some people who may not be supportive. And quite honestly, those are people you cannot worry about now. And this actually may be a very transparent moment for you to see who's in your corner and who's not in your corner. But for sure, make sure you are being very clear about what your level of expectations can be during this time and what you can give and what you cannot give. You may not be able to make it to every baby shower, every party, every event with the understanding that this is a short moment in time when you look at the total span of your life, and you will get past this and you will have lots of time to devote to those activities. So make sure they fully understand. Also, you need to transform your expectations of yourself. Sometimes we're way worse than anybody in our lives as far as expectations go, as far as the expectations we put on ourselves. You need to understand what you're undergoing and give yourself grace and allow yourself the space to take on this new responsibility and minimize some of the requirements that you put on yourself on an ongoing basis. And the last part of this is making sure you transform your work and your time commitments. Now, I get it. Sometimes you really can't adjust the work, especially in this economy. We have to hold on to the jobs that we have. I totally get that. But where you do have space and room to make those adjustments, do so. And sometimes that actually involves setting this up before you even start school, making sure that your employer is on board, understanding what you're currently going through. All right, let's move to our next strategy, and that is going to be not waiting to build outlines. Outlines are incredibly powerful in law school, but quite oftentimes people wait until too late to start the outlining process. So ideally, what you should be doing is after each class, you want to go over the key concepts that you learned in the class and master them in your outline within one day or within 24 hours. The reason for this is you want to do this while the material is fresh. Also, you don't want this to build up and you don't want to wait until a long time to actually start building your outlines. Your outlines are going to be a game changer for you when you're preparing to study for final exams. I know finals may seem way off from now. That's why a lot of people put off outlining until way too late. But I encourage you to start outlining early and outlining often, and do it on an actual schedule. Much like you attend class on a schedule, I want you to incorporate building your outlines into part of that schedule. And let's have a conversation about commercial outlines. Definitely remember those. Definitely remember the commercial outlines, and they can be super useful, but you never want to replace commercial outlines for your actual outline. You should use them as a supplement to make sure you are fully understanding the material, but do not let yourself get in a time crunch where you find that due to lack of time and preparation, you are now solely relying on commercial outlines as your means of building your study material. Also, another tip on outlines, you don't just want to build it and write it and keep progressing through the material. You should actually schedule time and intervals to check back in to review the material that you've put into the outline, to make sure that it's syncing, making sure there's a connection, making sure you're understanding what you're actually writing in the outline, and making sure it makes sense as far as the concepts and the total holdings and the total idea of that particular course. So tip number 2 is do not wait to build your outlines. Let's move to number 3. Number 3 is practice writing the law, not just knowing it. Sorry, I have a typo in that, guys. Not just knowing the law. What this means is that law school exams don't just test memory. They test the application of the law under pressure. So it's not just enough to know the law. You have to be able to apply the law in a written form. So my advice here is to make sure you are starting your practice exams sooner rather than later. You actually should be, in my opinion, start practicing on exams now. And we're in October, so you should start now. Start using short hypotheticals to answer your test questions. And I even recommend, I have one here, old school here. You probably can't see the title, but this is Examples and Explanations. I'm sure most of you have seen these books, but they have them in all your key subject areas. These are really great for giving you sample questions, which are the examples, and really great explanations for how to answer the questions. So this can be a great source for your practice exams. Another great source can be actually reviewing old exams from your professors. There should be a bank or a library bank of useful exams previously administered by your professor. Take advantage of those exams because not only do they show you how to test the actual subject, it gives you an insight look at how that particular professor actually formats their exams and how they ask questions. So the takeaway here is making sure that you are doing these practice exams and writing these exams earlier, ideally starting now in October, and you're writing for clarity and for structure, not for perfection at this point. We want to make sure that you are understanding the material, and after we understand the material, we then want to shift to the timing of the material. That's very important because obviously the exams are going to be timed. And so it's an art form to be able to answer the questions correctly, but also do so in the time that's actually permitted. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is the use of study groups and learning how to build your study squad. Now, this was a major miss for me when I was in law school. When I thought of study groups, my mind literally went back to like high school where we would get together in a group, study, no one was really focused. And I'm like, what's the point of that? I don't need that. I'm Superwoman. I can work independently. And the famous quote, I work better on my own. Well, that might work in other areas of your life, but in law school, study groups can be a major game changer. For those of you who actually have taken a class with me at Loyola in our paralegal studies program, you've heard me say this. Understanding and learning the law is partly learning the actual concepts and the theories, but when you actually learn it the best is when you do the application. So study groups help with the application piece. It allows you to have conversations about these legal topics, and it allows you to analyze these subjects with other like-minded individuals. So study groups can be amazingly great for helping you with your studying and with helping you understand these concepts. Now, the actual study squad, the idea there is to go up the notch and enhance your study group experience by building your dream team of a study group. And that dream team would include having one person who's amazing at outlining, having another one who's great at the explanation of the law, and then one who's great with the testing and the questions. Now, you may not know these things early on, especially as a 1L, but this is something that you want to strive for. You would ideally want to have someone in your group who hits those points, so that makes the best use of the group dynamic. But the takeaway here is, even if you don't have the dream team study squad, get in a study group. Study groups help you learn and analyze these concepts and to be able to actually discuss them and to be able to do so in a way that if you were explaining this information to like your mom, your dad, or even a 5th grader, you would be able to do so in a very easy, digestible way that even a 5th grader would understand. All right, let's move on to number 5. And number 5 is, do not underestimate the importance of legal writing. Most of you are going to have legal writing as one of your core subjects in your first semester. You're ideally probably going to have torts, contracts, legal writing. That's on a part-time schedule. And then if you're going full-time, you may have 1 or 2 additional courses. But here's the deal with legal writing. Every successful lawyer, no matter what practice area they focus on, they live and die by their ability to write clearly, persuasively, and precisely. So legal writing is going to be extremely important for your legal career. But it's going to be very important for your academic career because legal writing is the one course where your grade is more controllable than your other course subjects. In your other 1L classes like contracts and torts, your entire grade is going to be based on one final exam. Whereas legal writing gives you the opportunity to get multiple graded assignments. That means you get several opportunities to raise your grade throughout the semester, and you actually get individual feedback from the professor as you're moving along in the course. So not only can you track your progress, you can make visual improvement as you're progressing through the class, and, which is really huge, you can control this grade. If you strategize this correctly, you can control your legal writing grade, and that is going to help you in the end when we come down to final grades, and you're going to pair those with, let's say, your torts and your contracts, those types of classes. So take advantage of being able to control this grade so it will help your GPA in the end. Okay, let's move on to number 6. Number 6 is pre-planning scheduled office hours. What do I mean by this? Okay, every professor is going to announce their office hours, and too many law school students make the mistake of, one, not taking advantage of those office hours, or thinking, I'll go when I have an issue. What that does by taking that approach is you tend to wait and you get too busy, you don't find the time, you get overwhelmed with everything else, and before you know it, the semester is passed and you've never been to office hours. So my suggestion here is to challenge that and actually pre-plan and set your mind to the plan that you are going to schedule these office hours ahead of time. Now, I don't mean actually going to the professor and scheduling time. I mean on your own schedule, saying in the month of October, I'm going to attend office hours at least once, or maybe I'm going to attend twice, whatever the frequency you want to set. But I want you to set it almost like you would set office hours for a doctor or for a dentist, an actual appointment. So you should say, let's say in October, the second week of October, I'm going to check in with my contracts professor's office hours. And then for the fourth week of October, I'm going to check in with my torts professor for the office hours. Now, here's the thing. Even when you're setting these pre-scheduled appointments in your mind, you don't even know what you're going to talk about at that time, right? Because you're setting them ahead of time. But here's the deal. We can almost guarantee that you are going to have some question when that time comes up because you're not a master of the law yet. So you're going to have some question when that time comes. So it's not going to be a wasted exercise. And number 2, even if you don't have a specific question, you can use these office hours as a time to actually discuss case law with the professor, to discuss and analyze the actual holdings of different cases that you're currently studying. So the takeaway here is understanding this will not be wasted time, but very important to pre-schedule it so you know that it's actually going to happen. Another great thing to discuss during office hours is not only asking the professor how to understand different concepts and understand the law, ask the professor what distinguishes a B answer versus an A answer in your class. See what insight you get there. The whole point here is understanding the highest scoring people in the class don't always write the best answers. The best answers come from the answers that the professor deems best fits the framework for their understanding or their plan of the answer. So it's one thing to know the law, but you need to know how to structure the law based upon how your professor will be grading the exam. So number 6 is pre-plan those scheduled office hours. All right, guys, let's move on to number 7. Number 7 is I want you to treat your law school schedule like a job with built-in boundaries. The best law school students plan their law school weeks the same way lawyers plan their work week. So in your law practice, there are going to be activities that are going to be built into your schedule that aren't the traditional actual work. They're not the legal work, but there are going to be things that you need to attend to and things you need to plan and actually take time from your schedule and participate in. Let's say maybe client meetings, team meetings, billing your time, lots of different administrative tasks you may have to do associated with your practice. The key here is understanding lawyers don't just practice law. They don't just sit in the books or sit at their computer actually working on cases and working on the law. They spend time doing additional tasks that supplement their legal work. So I want you to treat your law school career the same way. I want you to build in and block out time for class preparation, outlining, reviewing, those sample exams we talked about, participating in study groups. I want you to pre-plan these things. Don't treat them as an afterthought. Don't treat them as, well, if I have time this week, I'll go to my study group. Or if I have time this week, I'll work on my outline. You need to actually build that time into your schedule so that you make sure that it happens. Also, by doing that, it becomes effortless because you know it's coming up, it's pre-scheduled, and it's so much easier on your mental capacity for actually getting it done. Now, speaking of mental capacity, I want you to also plan some mental breaks during these schedules. We cannot work all day, every day on our law school studies. Even if it's something as simple as taking a 15 to 20-minute break to go outside, get some air, get some coffee, get some water, whatever the case may be. Make sure you are filling in and adding these mental breaks throughout your day. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You want to make sure you're preparing yourself accordingly. All right, guys, let's move on to number 8. Now, here's one I know many of you think I would never say because I am the queen of networking. We all know that. But this is the one time in your career I am going to advise you, forget career networking. When you are going through your first semester of law school, do not get overwhelmed with, I have to attend this event. I have to attend this conference. I have to get my name out there. Because honestly, let's be real. If you blow this first semester of law school, it won't even matter all that networking you're trying to do. So this is the one time I'm going to tell you guys, put career networking on the back burner. And instead, I want you to focus on building school relationships. I want you to focus on building your village and your support and your resources within your academic space, within your school, within your university. So what this means is that you want to start building your relationships with your peers, your fellow students. We talked about our study groups a few moments ago. That can be in actual study groups. That can be attending events sponsored by the school to help you enhance your academic time there. There'll be students there. Also building your relationships with your professors. We talked about attending office hours. Also building your network and your support with all the great resources that your school has for you. Almost every school has all these amazing opportunities, activities, courses, and just support networks for students in general, but particularly 1L students. So seek out those opportunities, find those spaces, and make sure you are taking time to build those relationships for now. We'll have plenty of time to do that career networking. All right, moving on to number 9. Number 9. All right, number 9 is knowing when to ask for help and also knowing who to ask for help. So there's a stigma, for sure. There's a stigma in this profession, and it really begins in law school. And it's that stigma that if I ask for help, it makes me look weak. So we tend to put off seeking out resources, seeking out help. And what that does is it not only makes the problem worse, we lose time energy, and that is too valuable in this space. So it is very important to know who to ask for help and when to actually ask for help to make sure you are excelling faster in your legal career. So what this also involves is making sure you're able to properly ascertain what the problems are that are causing you to need help. So I want you to focus on doing a self-assessment at different intervals throughout this process. By that, I mean doing a real self-reflection to ask yourself, what's not working for me? I've been in this for, let's say, a month. I've been in it for a month and a half. Here are the things that I'm really struggling with. So before we get help, we need to properly understand what we need help with. So perhaps maybe your struggle is with briefing cases, or maybe it's with the speed of reading cases. You're having trouble getting through all the cases that are assigned each week. Or maybe your problem isn't even necessarily case or legal related. Maybe you're struggling with focus. Maybe you're having a hard time shifting from late night studying to early rising going to class. Or maybe it's just that, you're getting the rest, you're not having that problem, you understand the material when you read it, but maybe it's just not sticking. Meaning, and I had this one really bad. I totally would understand something in the moment, but 2 weeks go by and it was like I didn't even learn that 2 weeks ago. So that may be your problem too. Whatever your problem is, identify it, number one, and then let's figure out who is the best resource for helping you with that. And there are so many resources available. There's academic support. There's writing centers available in your school. You can also connect with 2L and 3L students, particularly the ones who have taken classes with that particular professor. You can pick their brain, get information from them, use that opportunity to develop some real mentorship with your peers in law school. Also, look for mentors outside of law school. There are so many people, including myself, who are happy to mentor law school students. So seek us out, find us. We are happy to assist you and provide any resources that we can to help you succeed. All right, our last one, number 10, for how to survive law school. It is protecting your mindset. Understanding law school builds confidence, not just competence. This is very important. This is something you need to understand. Number one, you would not be here if you're not qualified. No one is giving you a sympathy seat in that class. You are in that class because you earned it, you earned that spot, and you belong in that space. But the challenge is going to be, as you go throughout this process, there are going to be moments when you don't feel like you belong. And honestly, that's normal. It's normal to feel like you're out of place, you're not in the right space, and you're not getting it. That is normal. We all have felt that. What you need to understand is you're not lost. You're actually learning a new language, and you're learning how to think differently. I never will forget, one of my professors, my 1L professors, told me, and I really didn't get it at the time, but he said, law school is going to change the way that you think. And I was thinking, what does that mean? I'm going to be the same person after this. I'm just learning the law so I can go out here, start my career, and get a job. I didn't realize it as I was going through the process, but he was 100% correct. Law school changes the way that you think. You are going to come out of this experience having a sharper mind, being more analytical, being able to decipher through facts better, being able to streamline your thoughts, and you're going to have amazing confidence when you end this journey. But until you get to that point, understand it's a learning curve. And what that means is you're learning a new language, almost like someone who's dropped into a foreign country. So you're not learning a new speaking language. Instead, you're learning how to conduct legal reasoning. You're learning how to train your mind to think like a lawyer. And this is not going to come instantly. So don't expect instant mastery in this area. This is not undergrad. I'm sure some of you have already realized that this is not your undergraduate experience. You cannot memorize your way through this process. You are going to have to train your mind to think differently. And with that comes confidence. You will build confidence as you continue through that journey. But my key takeaway point here is giving yourself the grace to understand this is a process and giving yourself the time to be able to get the knowledge that you need, but also give yourself the time to learn how to excel in law school. It will not come overnight, but it will definitely come in time. All right. So, in conclusion, I just want you all to understand you are going to succeed. You have everything that it takes to make it through this process. As I said before, you are here for a reason. I want you to have faith in yourself, have faith in this process, and understand it's not about perfection. Throw perfection away. What is going to help you succeed is being persistent, having purpose, and building power. Keep going, keep striving, and know that you were built for this moment. One day you're going to look back, you're going to realize all those late nights, all the doubt, the grind, it wasn't breaking you, it was building you. And you can achieve and excel in law school and survive your first semester. I'm here for you guys. For those of you who have had classes with me at Loyola, you know this is not just fluff. This is not filler. I mean what I say. I walk the walk when it comes to mentoring my students. So anyone who wants to connect with me, who needs assistance, who needs a mentor, who needs encouragement, I am always here for you guys. You can visit my page on LinkedIn. It has my contact link for booking a call with me. My email address is there as well. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful to you. It's available on replay for those who cannot make it. And I wish you guys all the best as you continue through your first semester of law school. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.